Next presenter is Kristin Korten. She's the student from the Bachelor of Science department. And her topic today is how can fungi help us to create renewable, sustainable, and biodegradable materials?
Okay, yes, I'm Kristin Korten, working for Dr. Richard Chandra, and today I'm presenting on how fungi help us to create renewable, sustainable, and biodegradable materials. So, due to an accumulation of non-biodegradable materials, climate change, and the finite nature of fossil fuels, there's present need for sustainable materials. So first we're going to talk about what municipal solid waste, or MSWs, are. Municipal waste is made by humans wherever they are. The amount of municipal waste generated is influenced by the actions of people everywhere. What they choose to buy, what they choose to do with what they buy, and how they get rid of it. What they do for their day, how they manage their waste in their homes and away from their homes. Waste on its own is a very diverse term, with waste referring to materials such as food and plastic, products such as electronics and sources, which could be MSWs that contain different products. MSW specifically refers to the waste generated by a municipality or the local government, and householders, businesses, and like public service providers, and it's typically managed by the local government. So MSW doesn't even begin to encompass the whole of waste, which also includes such products as construction, demolition, industrial, agricultural, and healthcare waste. So with that in mind, if we look at the numbers of municipal solid waste alone, we're not even beginning to cover like the surface of it. So in 2020, global municipal solid waste generation was estimated to have been 2.1 billion tons, as seen there. And then by 2050, the UN projects it to go to 3.8 billion tons of MSW, which is a lot, and that's if urgent action is not taken. So as many of us are aware, plastic products are often used and they're not recycled properly. So they just kind of build up and it's not biodegradable. So we're just getting on this accumulation and it's going nowhere. So because of this issue of improper use of current materials and the increasing trend of waste generation, there's a dire need for these renewable materials, and that leaves the question of what alternative to fossil-derived resources can be used to produce materials. So Lignocellulosic biomass, or LB, such as forest and agricultural residues, are one of the most abundant natural renewable resources available, and these include such things as corn, wheat, wood such as softwood and hardwoods, and even bamboo. But that's just a few examples. However, unlike oil that can be readily fractionated, LB structures are heterogeneous, and the separation of cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin components that comprise these LB structures require exorbitant amounts of energy and chemicals. So to eliminate the need for breaking down the biomass, fungi are super helpful. Fungi can be grown directly on the biomass, and in the process they break down the biomass because of the enzymes that they have, which include free amino acids, proteins, chitin, glucan, glycoprotein, and a lot more. And then because of all their different enzymes, they can break down the biomass at various different levels. So a lot of biomass include microfibrils, which have cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin, which are hard to break down. And then you go down another level and you get to microfibrils and elementary fibrils, which can be amorphous and crystalline. And then if you go down another level, you get to the cellulobiose molecules. So some common white-rot fungi that are utilized for their efficient liquefaction include Shermid's versicolor, Pleuris austrianus, Phanerope chrysosporium, and Coriolis versicolor. There are many more, but these are just a few examples. And fungi are generally divided into two anatomical categories: the above-ground portion, which is known as the rooting body, and includes the pileus, hymenophore, cype, annulus, and vulva, and the underground portion, which is the mycelium. Each of these can be utilized for breaking down biomass, but with differing efficiencies that are still being explored. So I specifically mentioned white-rot fungi because they're unique in that they have all of the enzymatic machinery to break down the biomass completely. So fractionating cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin, and then growing on growing on LB, white-rot fungi produce renewable pure mycelium material, or PMM, and mycelium-based composites, or MBCs. But what these terms specifically mean, we will get into. So mycelium-based composites typically refers to materials made by growing fungus on an agricultural biomass or lignocellulosic biomass, such as those noted earlier, such that the final material's characteristics are determined by both the fungus and the substrate. So to the top right is an example of a product made by Belize et al., where they grew Abortus biennis, a WRF fungi, on wheat bran sawdust substrate, and they made a kind of model coffee filter. And then pure mycelium materials typically refers to materials made with the fungus grown in separation from the substrate, such that no feedstock particles are left over. So the properties of the pure mycelium materials are fully determined by the organism's biological characteristics and the growth conditions. So they use materials which involve properties such as foams, papers, leather, and even polymer-like characteristics. And the picture here in A, it is Microflex, which is a foam-like material, and then at last a mushroom-based meat alternative, and Reishi, a leather alternative to animal skins and other plastic-made leathers. And then some further examples of tested mycelium materials include products in the packaging sector, such as wine bottle packages for transportation and storage, the biomedical sector, including products with skin healing properties and chroma regeneration, the cosmetic sector, including like moisturizers that promote skin softness, and the construction sector, such as products making microbricks, cement, and insulation panels. Although pure mycelium materials and mycelium-based composites have garnered recent attention for their potential as renewable materials, there's a lot of information that is lacking regarding their fundamental interactions with WRF fungi and the biomass itself that affect the final material's characteristics. So the influence of heterogeneity exhibited at the biomass's level of structure, ranging from macroscopic particle size to the molecular properties such as cellulose crystallinity, will affect the material's characteristics that we will discuss, and that's still unclear. So because of this lack of information on the interactions, our research is focused on elucidating those characteristics that influence the final material's properties. So as an example of the interactions between WRF fungi and lignocellulosic biomass, work through this chart. So you start with a mycelium and then you inoculate it onto fungal culture. From that, you can put it into a liquid or solid culture that consumes the substrate, and you produce a pure mycelium sheet that can then undergo post-processing. Your other option is to take that fungal culture and put it into a mold that has the substrate with it, and then you would grow your material that you want into a specific shape, and then you would press it typically, and then you have your final mycelium composite. And usually it is also compressed. But with these final products, there's a lot of different parameters that can be altered that affect the mycelium material. So these include varying the fungal species, the growth substrate, the growth conditions. You can do pre or post-processing, and that will allow you to control the physical, chemical, mechanical, thermal, and so forth, all those different conditions for the final material. So as an example of this, in a study by Pose et al., they grew Chlorotis austriatus and Termites multicolor on various different substrates, including rapeseed, straw, cotton waste, and beech sawdust, and they either did not have any pressing, they cold pressed it, or they heat pressed it, and then through the varying of the fungal treatment, the substrate, and the pressing treatment, they got different morphological, mechanical, moisture, and water-related properties, which we'll get into. So it was seen that the fungal type impacted the amount of colonization occurring and the thickness of the fungal skin, two factors that determine the stiffness and the moisture resistance of the final material. Heat pressing improved homogeneity, strength and stiffness of the materials by shifting their performance from what was more of a foam-like to more of a cork or wood-like material. And the straw-based materials demonstrated increased stiffness and thus moisture resistance than the cotton-based mycelium composites. And then from this is just one of the examples of the T multicolor on straw versus P austriatus on cotton material. And you can see where it's kind of starting to break and bend. So this one was a lot more durable. So from all this, you can see that there are a lot of different types of issues that can occur when you're producing these MBCs due to the type of biomass and the mycelium that influences properties. Modification can be done to the mycelium or the biomass, allowing for many different alternatives in the production of the materials, but which ones are the best are yet to be determined. So our further research this summer will be focused on producing, characterizing, and elucidating the substrates to determine how the recalcitrance of the different lignocellulosic biomass affect those properties, the final material. So, yeah.
Just a question for the president. Thank you for the presentation. What is the envision and for the application?
Well, so like this is currently based on a paper that we're working on. The paper is not finished yet, so I can't say too much about it. But in the summer, we're going to be working using wheat straw, poplar, and pine. And then the end goal would ultimately be that we're making all these materials that can replace the fossil-based products. So like later today, Dr. Chandra is going to be talking about the use of oil and how pretty much all of our materials today are at least somewhat related to oil and made from it. So ideally we would be replacing those.
Just a question. Much of this was over my head.
Yeah.
I tried to follow along when you were running so fast. But I saw somewhere post-processing of these materials on your slides. It was a few steps back. And I was, there you go.
Yes.
And it says dry plasticizing chemical treatments and stuff. And so I was wondering, once you start making this biomass and you start creating other products, the treatments required to make those products, are they going to have a friendly
that's a good question.
ecological footprint?
Yeah. So that's one of the things that has been being explored because, of course, that's going to take a lot of energy to do that as well, especially plasticizers. A lot of the times, once they have the final material, they'll just do heating it so that it kind of kills the mycelium so that it won't grow anymore, and then you just have your final product. And the heating does not do, it's virtually fine, there's not much of an impact. The chemical treatments, they're still figuring that out. I'd say some of them are definitely, it'll have an impact, but it's much less than production of plastics, for instance, where they're exuding all these harmful chemicals, right? And this is more the energy into it is not great, but it's significantly lower, such that it would be more beneficial to use.
And the products that you're producing are going to be, in the long term, biodegradable?
Yes, yeah. So there we go. So this wine bottle, for instance, the idea with that one is it's like styrofoam basically, where it's cushioning the material. Yeah. But then if a homeowner were to buy the wine bottle, they could just scrape off this mycelium cover, throw it outside, and it'll biodegrade. It's like compost, essentially. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have thought this far ahead, but I was wondering about when we're talking about healthcare waste. Do you guys see an application to healthcare, the materials that we use in healthcare, or supplies or equipment?
Yeah, definitely not that far ahead.
Okay.
I think, because I have this one for antimicrobials and whatnot, and there are, which is kind of, it seems counterintuitive because you're using fungus for an antimicrobial thing, but they do have those properties as well. So in some applications, I guess the wound healing part, that could definitely be applied, but in terms of replacing, say syringes and whatnot, you would definitely have to do a lot of, treatments to the final product to make it work, because you'd be putting in, other chemicals, so that would be a difficulty. But they have applied it to construction materials where they're showing fire retardants and resistance to water and so forth. So there are definitely those.
I guess that's your post-production things, is how you say it's biodegradable in one sense, but when you build your home microbricks, then what's your lifespan?
That's a good question. You know, there's an art
Dissolve, right?
there's an art exhibit that's actually, at first I thought it was indoors, but I looked into it more and it is outside. So it's this pillar of micro bricks, and it has been up for, I think, 12 plus years now. I could be wrong, don't fact check me on that. But yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's in New York, it's like an art piece, but it has been outside and so far it hasn't biodegraded or anything, so.
But then you don't want it to last for
Well, exactly.
years.
That is, yeah. So it's definitely called.
Last question?
Yeah, in your literature review, have you come across any of the fungi that actually will eat plastics? I mean, we have a huge global problem with plastics.
Yeah, there's definitely been a few, it's not like our main focus that we've had, but there's been a few reviews that we've looked at, and that was kind of one of our, I don't want to say end goals, but like it's an extra reason to be looking into it, because we have noticed like a lot of fungi can be used to break down plastics. So that's like one side of it, and then yeah, that would be an extra.
Okay, thank you very much.